Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Stately Office Hours. This is where us, the team from Stately, in our nice matching blue t-shirts, a lot of us got last week, talk about everything that is new with Stately and with XState. Please, if you have any questions that you want to ask us, you can ask us in the chat if you are on YouTube or on Twitch, and we can answer any of your questions live. We're going to start as we do every week, or every time we do an office hours, with introducing who from the team is here today. I'm Laura, and I do advocacy and education and stuff for Stately. Going along the block, David.
Hey, I'm David. Yes, David, creator of XState and creator of Stately, founder of Stately. Same thing, really.
And Jenny.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny. I do fun things like plan retreats for the team and order swag like these awesome t-shirts.
And keep everything running, which is very important. Jenny keeps the lights on. And next up, this feels very Brady Bunch. Farzad.
Hey, I'm Farzad and I do engineering and stuff.
Anders?
Hey, I'm Anders. I also do a lot of engineering here at Stately.
And Nick?
I'm Nick and I do design here at Stately and stuff.
And right down at the bottom, last but not least, Kevin.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin. I work under everyone else doing engineering stuff.
We're at the bottom of the pile. And Gavin would like to announce that he is here in spirit. Yeah. Hope you're feeling a bit better, Gavin. We will surely have Gavin on camera sometime soon so you can enjoy his wonderful face as well. So, starting off, we have so many exciting things to share with you. It's been a few weeks because we were away on our retreat last week in Spain. And so we have so much to share with you. And one big exciting thing that we've been working on for ages, you might have seen some little previews of it before, but there's even more to share with you now. Anders, would you like to demo a bit of Stately Sky?
Yes, I would. I've been working on this for forever, it feels like, but there's so many moving parts in getting this feature to feel just right. But we are inching ever closer. And I am, of course, talking about Stately Sky. We even had a special episode a while back where we had Sunil from PartyKit join us. And PartyKit is a big component of Stately Sky. So today we're just going to show you the current status of Stately Sky. And as I mentioned, it is getting closer. So starting next week, we will start to onboard a few external testers. So if you'd like to try what you see here, please DM me on our Discord at Melson, and I'll try to get you sorted as quickly as possible. But I'll show you a quick demo here of how you can use Stately Sky for something that most applications probably need at some point. So on the right here, you can see we have the studio, and I've modeled a very simple onboarding flow where we start out in the state welcome, and then we can start our onboarding flow. We can now go to a visual editor page, and then the user can say...
Could you ruin your framing a little bit and zoom it in a touch for us?
I can
Just
try.
So we can read the text. It's very nicely fitted into the space there. There we go. Thank you.
So this onboarding flow moves the user through a series of steps to make sure that they've seen the parts of an application we want them to see. So this is very loosely modeled after the Stately Studio, where we have a visual editor, we have a projects page, we have discover and search. And on each step, the user can opt to either skip this step or they can go back, and they can also say complete, which means they've now seen this thing and we don't need to nag them again anytime soon. So, and the fun thing about this flow actually is I used generate flow to build it. I didn't even model
Nice.
it. I just typed in one phrase and it modeled it. So on the left, you can see I have like a very typical React application. And when I want to use this flow on the right inside React, Stately Sky will enable you to do this, where you basically open a run panel and should show something more here. There it is. It gives you some brief info about what Stately Sky is. It links to our documentation page about how to get started. And it lets you deploy a new thing. We're still undecided on the terminology. It's probably going to get the name workflow, or if you have a better term, let us know. And then we can see down here existing deploys. I can create a new one if you want to, but I'll reuse what we have up here. What it'll do is it'll actually spin up a brand new thing running on PartyKit and Cloudflare. And it gives you this nice little short URL. And we can copy that URL and paste it straight into our React application. And since this is actually multiplayer enabled, we want each session to belong to something. And in this case, we want the session to be the user ID. Now that we have this, we can run a new command called sky. Similar to what we have with xstate typegen, we now have an xstate sky command that fetches the machine config so that you have it locally, so that it's not just running inside a black box. You can see it even updated my code here to insert this sky config. So now when I hover over this state, probably not easy to see, but yeah, not easy to see. But if you can see the first line, you can actually see, I'm even pointing to the screen here. I'm old. You can see that it actually
If
has.
only it wrapped. If only.
Yeah, if only it wrapped. You can see it actually has the states. This is fully type safe from what's inside the editor. It's pretty cool. And you can even go in, you can inspect the file if you want to. So if we just click on this thing, you can go in, you can see the entire config that was downloaded. Now to the cool part. So this is the actual running application. And I've just posted images here to make it clear which machine it is.
Could you do a little bit of a zoom on the browser on that
I'll do
side?
a zoom here.
Fabulous. Thank you.
And now you can see I have these check marks down here if I've seen the pages in the flow. So now I can start my onboarding module.
Huh.
And I can see I'm on this first step. And to make this really fun, let me open it in a secondary window as well. Just so you can see that this is actually multiplayer. Now I'll just operate the right-hand side. I press start, but you can see the left window is following along nicely.
Oh.
I can skip. Now I'm on the visual editor. I want to skip that for a bit. Let me close this over here so you can see when I now press complete on the projects page, this other application that could be running anywhere in the world should get a check mark in the projects page.
Yes.
And I can keep going, and at the end I can either close or I can refresh. And the cool thing is we're persisting state for you. So when you come back to this application at any point, this state will still be here and it'll still be multiplayer enabled. So if I come back reset using that same session ID, it now resets over here. So yeah, this should enable you to build really, really fun, small React applications and JavaScript applications in general in a type safe and hopefully fun way.
And so
that's,
little code there as well.
And oh yeah, one cool little trick as well. So you see this URL that we copy pasted? If I now copy this into my browser, I just paste it and I wonder what this is. It'll actually open the editor at that very version that's running inside your code. So you can see exactly what you have running in your code. And this is just like the first steps we have thought out for Sky. There's going to be so much more cool functionality coming, but this first bit is getting released this year. And as I mentioned, DM me for early access starting within the next few weeks.
So if you want to ask Anders about early access, you can join our Discord at discord.stately.ai if you are not there already. And who are you on Discord again, Anders?
Melson.
Melson.
M-E-L-L-S-O-N. Yeah.
So you'll be able to find him there. That's so exciting. I love how it works so well with multiplayer as well. It's so quick.
It's really, really quick. It's so fun. I can't wait to see like small games and whatever users are going to think of using this.
Yeah,
White noise machines.
Yeah.
I was going to mention like onboarding flows are a very simple application of this, but this could easily be for games or other multiplayer things that require a state machine. There's just so many possibilities, and it's really awesome how easy it is to do.
Yeah, and it's like one of the things that's so neat to me is you just paste the URL in from the Stately Studio, and then you use it just like XState. Like it's just a drop in. Instead of configuring the machine in your local file, you just configure it in the web browser in Stately Studio, put in a URL, and it's kept in sync, and it just downloads it, and you can click the link and it'll open it. It's type safe. I mean, it's just so neat, and you just use state and send just like normal.
Yeah, as you say, it is meant to be a drop-in replacement of the regular XState API. So it lends to the application where you can be concerned about the front end and just drop in these simple stately Sky things, and then you have a full backend. You don't even have to be concerned about server side.
I want to answer this question real quick. What kind of pricing will this use? In the beta period, if you're a pro user, then this is going to be included. We're still determining pricing for this, but the initial plan is to just have it be part of your pro subscription, which is only $12.50 a month if you pay for a year. So really cheap. We might introduce usage-based pricing in the future, but for now, we want to make it just very inexpensive for you.
Just one quick question. If you were to use it for any backend workflow, is there a way to opt out of the multiplayer state?
It's up to you because you provide the session ID. So as long as you don't share the session ID with other running instances of that application, it's single-threaded, so to say. But as long as you start sharing the session ID, it is multiplayer.
So it's multiplayer by default. Not by default, but like it's multiplayer enabled. You can have it be multiplayer or not. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be so easy to set things up with multiplayer. I can think of loads of cool little apps that we can build for this for demos in the future as well. Oh, and hey, if anyone does have any ideas of apps or demos, you could bake them yourself and let Anders know so you can get access, or you can request an example on our feedback board. That's at feedback.stately.ai. We have a list of examples there. If you let us know what you want to see, maybe we can build a little app that will be fun.
Yep. Tyler had one more question. Sky has plans for PartyKit integration, correct? And right now, the demo that you just saw is powered by, I was going to say is partied by PartyKit. It's powered by PartyKit. Will the multiplayer usage be a potential add-on based on usage? So like Gavin said, and like Honor said, it's multiplayer by default. So just, I think that's the base model we're working at right now.
It is, yeah.
Great. Well, that's one really exciting thing. And moving on to something else really exciting and very new. David, do you want to show us what's been going on with generating test paths? We've been talking about this for years, the idea that you could use state machines for this, and you've made it a reality.
Yeah, so this is actually something that I sort of teased out, and maybe you thought that I sort of faked this or something, but it was something I was experimenting with, where basically if you have a flow like an existing state machine or even a state machine that you create to describe the flow of your application, in theory, you should be able to generate end-to-end tests. Now, first of all, what do I mean by an end-to-end test? So an end-to-end test means you're starting at a specific point and you're executing a series of what we call steps in order to reach a goal. For example, you want to assure that the user could do a certain action or that the user could log in, given a number of steps that the users can do. And we all know that writing end-to-end tests gets actually really, really tedious. And the reality is even worse because given the number of possible paths that you could take in your application, the number of end-to-end tests that you have to write manually, which is the state of the art, which is a bit ridiculous, but the number of manual tests you have to write to cover everything or close to everything is just astronomically high. So over the last month, we've been actually working on iterating this. And to demonstrate, I'm going to show you a sample application over here. this is just a simple checkout flow. And like Honors, I was feeling lazy today, so I used the generate flow modal in order to generate these tests. Let me zoom in a bit so that you could see a little better. So this flow is pretty simple. In fact, if we go to simulate, you could see, oh, by the way, we did redesign this a little bit. I'm not sure if we mentioned that in the last office hours, but we could start the checkout, and then you could see that we could do a few things, continue, and then when we enter our shipping address, we could submit that address, and then we're entering payment method. Then we're placing the order, and if all goes well, then our order is completed. And that's really the happy path. But let's say that we want to test pretty much all the paths. So if I go to code, and then I go to test paths, you can't see it here, but it's in the top left drop down. There is, I slightly redesigned this from the original tweet, which was just showing one big block of code. Farzad did a lot of work in making it possible to show many blocks of code in a performance way. You're going to see a few things. By the way, this UI is not final. It's just, a work in progress.
Experimental.
Exactly. But the first thing you'll see is that we have some setup code. And the purpose of this is to make it so that you could use basically anything. It doesn't matter if it's Selenium, Playwright, Puppeteer, Cypress, anything. We have a couple main functions over here. The only thing that we import from Xstate, by the way, is matches state, which is a tiny utility that I could even inline here, so you don't even need to use Xstate. But the first function is start, and this would be, for example, you opening Playwright to open the browser at a certain page. And then we have assert state. And so this is each of the states over here, and a nice comment that says, hey, just add your implementation for what happens if we do get in that state. So for example, if we're on the confirming order page, we might want to ensure that there is a header that says confirming your order or something like that. And we do similar for execute events, where we have areas over here where, for example, on the add item event, you might actually want to find a button that says add item and click it. And so you could implement that, or something that we might be experimenting with in the future. If this is in your code base, we could just use GPT to generate these implementations for you. Or if you're using Copilot, you could actually do it yourself. Just delete this and then wait for Copilot to do its magic. We have some ideas for that in the future. But I mean, most of the scaffolding for each of these is generated for you. But the really interesting part is actually all of these paths over here. So you might have seen, like, I was hovering over them, and you could see that it actually shows you. I'm going to zoom out a bit here so you could see, but it actually shows you I'll zoom in a little bit more. Oops, too much. It shows you each of the paths. So for example, this is an end-to-end test describing reaching the idle state, and then selecting items, then entering shipping address, payment method, confirming order, processing order, order completed, or order failed. And so if we go to each of these, we could see basically the series of things that we need to execute to fully realize the end-to-end test. For example, we want to make sure that we're in the idle state, and then click start checkout, and then we should be in the selecting item state, and then we just keep going, continue, submit address, submit payment, place order, and then order success. And of course, there's the order failed, for here. Now, in reality, this could generate a lot of tests, especially if you use the simple paths generation method. In this case, it generates the same amount. So that's why we actually have some nice tools here. So you could, or options rather, you could click deduplicate paths, and now you see that we're left with two paths. Does that mean we have less coverage? No, because this one, we're testing that it reaches order completed, but at the same time, we're already passing and asserting all of the other states. So we don't need to write end-to-end tests for every single one of those if they're all being covered by the same end-to-end test. This, in my opinion, is huge because it could really, really cut down on the testing time for your end-to-end tests when you're running it in CI/CD. Like, our goal is, if we could save you $15 or more per month on CI costs just for running your end-to-end tests, then then we're doing a pretty good job and we're justifying Stately Studio Pro for you. And so we do need to have 2 tests here because this order completed test does not include the fail state. But there's still one more thing missing over here. We have tests that reach all of these states, but we're forgetting a few transitions. For example, when we edit an address or we cancel here. So we're just focusing on states. Well, if we click prefer transition coverage, then you see we generate a lot more tests, but each one of these tests are going to basically try to cover as well as it can. It could cover all of the transitions in your state chart. So it's going to make sure that anything that a user could do, even if it ends up going to the same state, will be covered. Now, of course, you could combine this with deduplicate paths, and you have you have some fewer paths, but at least you have close to the minimum number of paths that it would take to completely cover everything that a user could do and every states that a user could reach in your application. I say close because I think this is an NP-hard problem. It's really difficult to find the true least amounts of paths to cover every state in transition, but we have heuristics that do the best that they can. And so you could just copy each one of these test cases over and use them in your code without having to install any third-party libraries. So that is test generation.
Yeah, that is so cool. And people are very excited in the comments as well. Roberto says awesome and has also shown me that we can get people live commenting from LinkedIn. Who knew? It works. That's great to know. Tyler said, this is the first method I've ever seen that makes me want to abandon manual BDD. What's BDD, anyone?
Behavior-driven development.
Nice.
Yep. And so with behavior-driven development, it's like given this, when this, then that. And basically this automates the creation of those, BDD statements. By the way, I just wanted to quickly show I took a fun example. There's a river crossing puzzle where I think you have like a goose, a carrot, and a fox, and you have to carry them across the river, but you can't leave the fox alone with the goose because then the fox will eat the goose. And so it's just a classic children's riddle. But what's funny is that basically by using this test generation, we could say, okay, which gets me to the end goal? And so we have the answer to our riddle over here. So it's like, all right, take the goose, return empty, take the goose, take the carrot, return empty, etc. And so I'm not saying you should, but you can cheat on riddles by using this tool.
Yeah, personally, I think I have like a lot of passion about this feature because we iterated over this a lot in the past 2 years. And I can't wait to integrate this into some sort of future analytics or heat map integration where you can see the heat map of the usage based on the real-time analytics data, like which paths are hot paths.
Oh, yeah.
And are they even covered in like test generation or not? Or being able to step into the sort of balance between step-by-step manual, picking the step and keeping generating the flow, or hinting the algorithmic, like the generation algorithm here towards, if that makes sense, like in Google Maps, for example, if you want to go from this city to that city, sometimes you want to stick out of the main road and get to the off-road at some point, some checkpoints. We could do the same thing here. You could step manually into the generation and try to hint the algorithm towards a better path that suits your needs.
Yeah,
and I can't wait to have like more filters, whether this scenario is covered in the generation or not. So basically, the goal is I think like David, you mentioned that we want to cut down on the prices. I think you already cut down a lot by generating the test.
Yeah, I'm actually really eager to use this ourselves in testing the studio, just because it is very complex. But yeah, what Farzad said is definitely accurate. In fact, the algorithms that we're using, they do take path weights into consideration. And so that path weight can be anything. So if we want, like, let's say this generates 100 tests, but you want to say, I want to actually test the paths that users are taking the most. Then we could tie analytics. And so here's how things tie together. With Stately Sky, if these are actual workflows that are running in production, you could actually opt into analytics and see, okay, which transitions are users actually taking? And then based on the ones most frequently taken, we can optimize for those end-to-end tests over other end-to-end tests. So yeah, there's exciting possibilities. And we do know that you might want to use context, assigns, and things like that in your state machine, so it's not just finite states. And so in the future, we could also introduce generative features that say, okay, this is a form, and you might want to fill out like name, email, etc. And so the generative features can essentially create those events for you and say, I will give you a sample email address, for instance. And then you could generate really realistic tests.
Nice.
Yeah, and there are like some cosmetic ideas we can apply here, like maybe a global command where you can paint like certain path green as happy path or certain paths as red as failures. There's a lot of things we could do in terms of communication too.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really ties into what Tyler said here, that they loved Cucumber because it helped communicate logic to business partners. But state charts is greater than given when then. It's communication really helps in these situations, and that's what these happy paths are so useful for as well. Cedric asks, when will all these super features be available?
So test generation, this is pretty close to completion. The UI is ugly, so I'm going to ask for help cleaning it up. But yeah, this could actually be available as a beta feature. And of course, if you're a pro user, then you're going to be the first, or actually the only one to see it. It's a pro only feature. But yeah, hopefully this month.
Fabulous. Well, go.
No, and Sky is like it's going to be in beta in probably around a month, and early access starting next week.
So you know where to go if you want to get on that. I thought this would be a good opportunity to remind you of some of the other pro features that we've got going on and why you really want to sign up for Stately Pro. So one of the features that we released recently that you'll be able to get a demo in one of the previous office hours is that generate flows. So we saw there that both Anders and David created their machines really quickly by generating them from a text description. So that's how they got those amazing complex flows with descriptions and everything integrated into them, just by adding what they want in the form of a flow. Now, you don't have to be a pro user in order to try this feature. You can actually get three generations like testing for free, and but if you want to try out even more, you can sign up for a free trial of Stately Pro, and that lasts 30 days. Other ways you can get started really quickly as a pro, you can import your machines from GitHub if you already have XState machines existing in your code. You can also collaborate with your teams using the teams and shared projects. You can have private projects and unlisted projects there as well. You can keep a version history, so you can easily go back. You can color your machines, as you saw there. Having colored machines makes it really easy to be able to communicate particular ideas to the rest of your team, which makes it easier to collaborate. Speaking of collaboration, we of course have the live simulation mode, so you can share your machines and how you're simulating through them live with your coworkers as well. You can lock your machines to stop accidental edits, and we have live collaboration coming very soon as well. You can also export for documentation really easily with some of those other cool export formats. So as well as being able to generate test paths in the future, you can also export to Markdown and stories as a pro user. So that's just a little flavor of all of the pro features that we have. And so if you want to try those out, you can always use that nice little orange button at the top of the studio that says upgrade, or you can go to stately.ai/pricing to get more information about the features that are available and the monthly pricing and things like that. And we also have Enterprise, which we will talk about later. And of course, Cedric's a pro, and we love you for it, Cedric. Next up, let's move on to XState. So XState v5, it's coming very soon, isn't it, David?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to announce is that talk to Mateusz, who's probably watching, but not here right now. We are planning on releasing XState version 5 in November. We originally released XState v5 beta a few months ago. I want to say a couple months ago. And since then, we've gotten a lot of feedback, and we've had a lot of time, especially over the last 4 or so years with XState v4, to really iterate on and figure out what the direction of XState v5 is going to be. A couple of recent changes, if you've been playing around with the beta, that I want to show out. Or also, if you're new to XState v5 beta, this is something that might be interesting to you as well, is some of the changes around how you can use other types of actor logic, which is something that we've been talking about a lot, making actors first-class citizens instead of making you have to use state machines for everything. By the way, state machines and state charts are really useful, but there's a lot of situations in which they apply, but we don't want you to take a shiny tool and just use it absolutely everywhere because you might upset your coworkers. So that's why XState version 5, we have a few different ways of creating actors. So one of them is you could create it from a promise. And so I'm just going to call this const p. And this is creating actor logic. So I'll just call this const promise logic equals from promise. And then you could just, for example, const thing equals await fetch. You could fetch something, and then of course you have to do r.json or something like that, and then you return the thing. And that's pretty much it. That's the implementation. You might be wondering, why do I have to wrap this in a from promise? Well, the reason is because all of these types of actor logic, we call them, have the same interface, and they do return more. And this is the change that I want to talk about, but they do return more than just the thing. In fact, this is a little bit more powerful than the promise because it actually keeps the response in a snapshot so you could read it later as long as you have reference to the actor. So const promise actor equals create actor, which, by the way, in XState v4, this was interpret, scary word. Now it's create actor because what are you doing? You're creating an actor. And then you just give it the promise logic. And yeah, so then you could subscribe to it. And this is what I mean by the common interface. So we could have promise actor.subscribe. And then we have the snapshot over here. And the snapshot has a few things. It has error, input, output, and status. Of course, the output is going to be, let's say that this thing is a string, just because it rhymes a bit, thing and string. Now you could see that the output, yep, the output is a string, although should really be checked on the status. So we have a status over here, and you could see that the status is active, done, error, or stop. So you have more information about the actor over there, and you also have the output. And if an error does happen, then this error is going to be populated in there. And then, of course, to start the promise, it's just promise actor.starts. So that's promises. Just to quickly run through a couple of other things to give you an overview of the API. We have from transition, and this is going to be your traditional, you have a state in an event, and you could switch on the event.type. So if event.type equals increments, then you could return the states with the counts incremented, etc. Or we could just return the state and you give it an initial context. For example, counts 0. And then it has the exact same API. So you could subscribe to it, you could start it, and you could send it events. So we could say const transition actor equals create actor, and then pass t in there, and then transition actor dot send, and then you could send an event like type increments. And then, of course, there's create machine. And create machine, it's pretty much the same. So const m equals create machine. We don't really have to go through this, but I just want to show you. By the way, that's the simplest way to create a machine. It doesn't really do anything. It's not useful, but that's valid. I'm just showing you this for completion. Const a equals create actor machine, and then you could start it, and you could send it, a.send, you could send it events and things like that. So that's pretty much the big change. Probably one of the last changes with X8 V5 beta is that when you subscribe, you are going to get more than just the output value. You are going to get the actor status as well. So yeah, that's all I want to mention. And this whole thing fit within 30 or so lines.
Fabulous. It's a cheat sheet in the making already.
And we do have a cheat sheet, by the way. So if you do go to stately.ai/docs, then we have a cheat sheet. You look at the top left, right over here. So if you want to just get an overview of the upcoming API in X8 version 5 beta, it's all right here for you. So even creating promise logic, like I showed you, transition, observable, callback logic, all the way down to types for machines. It's all there for you.
Fabulous. I just realized the banner I showed was the wrong URL. You don't need the X8 V5 in there anymore because our docs now default to X8 V5. So follow David's instructions, not the banner.
Right.
Cedric asks, side question, I'm still using VS Code extensions to work my project. Is the goal to use the editor more than the VS Code extension in the future?
So I would say no, we're actually updating the VS Code extension, and Farzad and Honors have been working really hard on that and getting it up to date with the current editor. What this means, though, is that the extension is going to have a lot more studio-powered features. So if you wanted to log into the extension, now you have, for example, the generative features at your fingertips, along with other things like test generation and things like that, if you're a pro user, of course. So yeah, the extension is getting renovated, and yeah, we're working on that.
Excellent. Cedric asks, do you have an idea how the actors will be integrated into the editor? Oh, do we have ideas, Cedric?
Yeah, so if by actors you mean like other types of logic than state machines, then yeah, we do have some rough ideas. Of course, we're not going to be able to show a full state machine of the actor, especially if the actor is any other type of logic. But with the advancements that we've made in both X8 V5, as well as what we've done in Sky, eventually it is going to be possible for you to visualize a system hierarchy of actors, especially like which ones are invoking which other ones, and eventually a sequence diagram of how those actors are communicating with each other when you actually have like a workflow run or whatever we want to call it. So basically, you could imagine that if someone is doing an onboarding flow, like Honors demonstrated at the beginning, you should be able to see those flow of events. And if that in the future invokes another actor, then we could see communication between those actors. These are future event or future ideas. So, we're still working on them and planning them out.
Which I think is a great time to show this lovely comment from Tyler saying, seriously though, you all are amazing. Appreciate the thoughtful UI features. You're doing a lot of new things, but they're all driving towards a common goal. And that's absolutely the case.
And I think what David was just saying also ties into a question Cedric asked earlier about the relationship between the visualizer and the editor in Sky. And I think you can see we're moving them together. Like it's going to be an integrated experience. You'll be able to do an integrated, simple experience. So that's what we're moving towards.
Yeah, we want to make it easy for everyone to be able to use the studio, and regardless which part of the team they're in as well. We want to make it useful for the entirety of your team. Now, recently we were at quite a lot of events. I was at JS Day Ireland and at React Alicante. We had David and Kevin both speaking, and hopefully you'll be able to watch the videos of those talks very soon. And I've got a whole other bunch of events coming up that I thought I might just mention to you in case you are local to the area. So next week, I will be at Full Stack EU, which is in Antwerp. That's October 19th and 20th. The week after that, I will be in Sofia in Bulgaria at DevReach. That's October 25th to 26th. And then later on in the year, I will be at Way Web in Malaga with Kevin. and that's November 23rd to 24th. And here I have a very long URL for you. But if you're one of those people that would love to go to these in-person events, but for whatever reason you can't make it, a lot of these really great events will share videos after the fact. And we've made a new YouTube playlist, which is a horribly long URL. But if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find it under the playlists. And here we have all of the recent talks given by the Stately team. So you'll be able to find all of those videos that are online in one location. So you can catch up with them, watch them. Even if you were there live, you can watch it back as well in case you missed anything or want to remind yourself or share it with your team. So that's a little new playlist that I made for you today. So Cedric says, I have often a logic setup in a big machine that I want to move into an actor for the quick feedback. So that sounds like something that would work quite well inside of the studio.
Yeah. And also, we should write blog posts and examples for things like that, because it is a common thing to do, especially if you have really large machine definitions.
100%. Speaking of examples and demos and things like that, another thing that we have recently set up is if you go to our pricing page, you'll see that there is a new section for services. And this is if you have any needs relating to state machines or Stately or XState, we probably have the solution for you. So you can get in touch with us to find out about consulting on your projects. We can give workshops for your teams if you want to give everyone an introduction to state machines. We can also introduce you to some custom solutions for your state machine logic or your model-based testing. So you got a nice little preview of that earlier. And we also offer priority support as a service. So if you're interested in any of those things, please do let us know. And if you want to scroll slightly further up the page, I can give mention to our enterprise option as well. So if you are part of a much larger team that needs those kinds of special custom solutions, you can contact us with that nice button or email us support@stately.ai and let us know what your needs are and we can see what we can do for you. If what you want is a demo and maybe you want a demo just for yourself to see how Stately might work for you, or if you want to introduce the whole of your team, you can always request a demo. I love how you're being able to see exactly what I'm going with this. You can request a demo. So you can go to that book a demo button that's on our homepage there. We do have a slightly longer URL here that takes you to. So you can just go to the stately.ai and press the book a demo button. And there you can set a calendar date with our team and we will give you a demo. And we've had really great feedback off the demos that we've given recently. We're available in most time zones, so we should be able to find a time that works for you as well. And let's help get your whole team on board with Stately. We're really up for it. And if you enjoy our office hours, you're going to love our demos. It's like this, but it's one-to-one. And have I missed anything, team? So much to cover this week.
I don't think so.
So finally, I wanted to mention on behalf of Jenny, we want you to share your machines. If you've got machines that you've been working on, we'd love to see them. If you've got machines that you're proud of or ones that you think need work or ones that you want someone to preview and give you feedback on, please share them with us. Let us know on our Discord. You can share them with us on social media and also share them with your team. If you've got a cool machine, we want to spread the good word of state machines and state charts. So make sure that you're sharing them with your team and let us know what feedback you got from your team when you shared your machines with them. We want to know how everyone's using Stately. So I think if there's nothing more to add from the team, I like that Cedric said we were in Spain again. And his conclusion is the sun will bring back the Stately team. We needed that sun, especially those of us who live in Europe, in the other parts of Europe that aren't so sunny. It was a really good dose of sunshine in October for us. And on that note, I'm going to wrap us up. We will be back in hopefully a couple of weeks' time. I need to check when I'm here again. But we will let you know if you follow us on our social platforms, or you can find us on Discord. We will let you know when the next office hours is going to happen. If you subscribe to us on YouTube, or if you follow us on LinkedIn, you will get a notification automatically. You can sign up for the events and you can get a reminder when we're just about to start. And that's probably the best way to keep up with what's going on at Stately. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here in person. Thank you, Cedric, for all of the questions. We really appreciate everyone's participation. We will catch you all later. Goodbye.